Today, we are reading Flowers Are Calling, words by Rita Gray, pictures by Kennard Pack. Flowers are calling a little black bear. No, not a bear, he doesn't care. They're calling a butterfly to dip from the air. Flowers are calling a wet green frog. No, not a frog, she lights her soggy bog. They're calling a bumblebee to look near their log. Flowers are calling a porcupine. No, not a porcupine, she wouldn't take the time. They're calling a hummingbird to sip at their vine. Flowers are calling a loud blue jay. No, not a jay, he wouldn't stay. They're calling a honeybee to fly their way. Flowers are calling a little moose. No, not a moose, what would be the use? They're calling a beetle to eat their pollen loose. Flowers are calling a rabbit to stop. No, not a rabbit, it's not their habit to call a rabbit. You might grab it. They're calling a bee fly to visit their spot. Flowers are calling a small brown snake. No, not a snake, for goodness' sake. They're calling a pollen wasp with nectar to take. Flowers are calling a fat raccoon. No, not a raccoon, he doesn't care for white bloom or sweet perfume. They're calling a moth in the light of the moon. Flowers are calling a desert deer. No, not a deer, he can't even get near. They're calling a nectar bat to flap over here. Flowers are calling a busy wren. No, not a wren, he's already seen them. They're calling children to look again. The end. So in these next three slides, these are pages that are actually incorporated within the story. I thought it'd be fun to put them at the end so that you can go back and see how and where the artist has placed each flower. Not only that, you get to see, how it's pollinated by what kind of insect, and also what kind of wildlife lives around these types of flowers. They might not be what we have here in Hawaii, but uh, they're still pretty to look at. That's one reason why I picked this book, because of the visuals, and also because it is springtime here too, even though it's been really rainy and cold. So it's just something to keep in mind. The next two pages just kind of points out different things, different characteristics that a flower has that you can kind of look at to maybe assume or expect that a certain pollinator visits that certain kind of flower. So, I mean, if you have the space, as in a garden or a yard, and I know it's been rainy again, but take the time to step outside, go look at what's going on outside of your home, since you have the time, and kind of just enjoy it for a bit. Enjoy the peacefulness and the quietness and the beauty that nature provides. So today, boys and girls, we're going to upcycle this brown paper bag and turn it into a sunflower. Usually sunflowers are associated with the sun, so warmth, happiness, something that we kind of all want right now, especially with this rainy weather. So why not bring it inside? We are just using a brown paper bag today with some markers, scissors, and glue, just to show you that even though you have a limited amount of resources, you can still turn nothing into something. So you are going to need some markers of your color choices, dark and lights, one brown paper bag. The handle is not necessary. I like it because then you can use it to hang. Some adhesive, liquid, or stick glue is fine, whatever you have. Some scissors. If you need adult supervision, please seek it. And a pencil or a pen. Some people like to draw before they color in. So first we're going to cut the paper bag along the side. So one side
and then the opposite side, long ways, all the way to the bottom. Then we're going to turn it over to the bottom, and we're going to cut that side as well. So connecting to the sides that you already cut. Should look like that. Hold it up like that and cut along that line. This piece that we're cutting off, this long piece, side A, is for your sunflower in the end. So these corners, it's not necessary, but I glued them down just so they would stay out of the way. There's no reason for them to be sticking up unless you find a reason for them. So it should look like this. This would be side B. Let's cut the sides off. So you should end up with two rectangles in the end. So grab one rectangle. This first rectangle we're going to use to make our big petals. I will show you in a second how I'm measuring the petals, just to make it easier to draw big and smaller ones later. So I'm going to cut one out, that way you can see how I use my fingers as a guide. So I use two fingers. Pretend that they're on the paper laying down flat before I cut it out. So you're going to start at the bottom, you're going to come out, come to a point, go back down, come out, and come back down. Kind of like a teardrop, just with a flat bottom instead of round. So once you draw one, you can cut it out and then use it as a stencil. I'd recommend drawing as much as you can on this rectangle. My fingers are way bigger than yours, so I have less, but you can draw as many as you'd like. 10 would be minimum, I'd say. And after that, go ahead and cut each of them out. They don't have to be perfect. They can be outside the line. You can come inside the line. It doesn't matter. So now we're going to draw the second set of petals, the smaller petals. And I also changed my color. So same thing here. I'm using two fingers as a guide. Just a little different this time. And by different, I mean with the big petal, you see we came all the way down to almost our knuckles. Right there at the bottom of our fingers. That's how big that petal is. These petals were coming midway through our fingers, so not even all the way down, if you can see the difference. So same shape, just a different size. So same here, once you get one drawn, cut it out, use it as a stencil, and then cut your petals out. So when you're done cutting all your petals, go ahead and crumple them. There is strategy to this, so don't freak out, just enjoy it. And once you're done crumpling all of your petals, go ahead and uncrumple them. This will give the petals texture. Okay, next, with some scrap paper from your petals, draw a giant grain of rice or a jelly bean. On one end, like a needle or stinger. The top, you're going to draw wings, kind of like the letter B. And then we're going to draw a happy face at one end and stripes. These will be our pollinators, or bumblebees. I'm going to make two. You can make more if you'd like, based on the whatever paper you have left over. So after you draw two, go ahead and cut them out, set them on the side. So side B of the paper bag that you cut, you're going to rip the handles off, or handle, I should say. Once you rip it off, you're going to cut a couple of pieces. So two pieces, kind of good length. It doesn't have to be a specific length. So you're going to take a strip, you're going to fold down, take a little piece at the top, and then you're going to fold backwards. So you're left with a Z. Yeah? And then you're going to go forward again, kind of like an M, and then you're going to go backwards, and then you're going to keep going until you run out of paper, basically. Until you're left with this springy thing. Okay, now we're going to draw the leaves. This is the last thing we need to cut. Again, with the fingers, I'm using 3 because I want my leaves to be a bit bigger. You don't have to, they can be the same size as your big petals. As you can see, my ends, I kind of made them kind of funky. You don't have to draw them like that, draw them however you'd like. So here I draw 3 leaves. Again, you don't have to do 3 leaves, you can do more, you can do less. And then quickly I go on the inside and I make marks so that it looks like leaves. So if you look close up on a leaf face, they kind of look like the inside of your palms. They have their own little special markings and pathways. Super interesting. And after you draw your leaves, again, you don't have to color in or anything. Go ahead and cut them out. Now we're going to start with our sunflower. Grab a circle you can draw with, size of your palm. Go ahead and draw at the top. You're going to draw your stem all the way down just before the end of the paper. Now at the bottom, you're going to draw a long oval. Kind of like that. In the oval, draw 2 lines at the end, connect those lines, and draw 2 lines at the bottom. If at any time this is too fast, go ahead and pause. So now I'm just outlining my vase or pot with brown. And then I'm going to go over with like a red color because I kind of want it to be a reddish brown pot. It doesn't have to be that color for you. You can pick whatever color you'd like. And I don't know about you, but I don't really like to spend all my time coloring in. So what I like to do is shade. If you draw these short lines and don't connect them to the other end, they kind of look like the shadows of the pot. So anything in real life that is 3D has shadows. Why? Because it's not flat. So we're kind of trying to go for the appearance here. So here on the sides, I'm just doing really big, wide zigzags. Again, we're making shadows, light, just to give it the appearance that it's real. And then we're done with our pot. We're going to move on to the dirt. Again, I'm not going to color it all in. So instead, I take a brown marker and I draw scribbles. The tighter the scribbles, the more finer it looks, the more detailed, I should say. It's just a quick way of coloring things in. Especially if you have something like this, a brown paper bag that is not white. I personally don't feel like I have to color everything in because I don't have any white spaces, so it doesn't look as bad. Then, if you want to add more, you can come in with another color like gray. That's what I use here. And I drew some small pebbles, different sizes, some ovals, some circles, some big, some small, kind of just to fill in the space. And then from here, we're going to do our stem. So I picked dark green. So outline the line that I drew already. And again, I'm not going to color in, I'm just going to shade. I'm just going to make really small curved lines that do not connect both ends. So staying on one side of my line, or my stem, I'm just making short dashes. Just a quick way to add some color to all of this without going too overboard. And now we're going to draw branches, I guess you could call them, for our leaves. Just make them, you know, here or there, kind of thick, kind of skinny, some long, some short. You can add some swirly vines if you'd like. And then if we move up again, if we take our gray or a black, I'm going to outline that circle. This is the center of our sunflower, where we get sunflower seeds. I'm going to go in one direction with diagonal lines. And then I'm going to go in the other direction, creating diamonds or squares, however you're looking at it. Okay, and then you can add some dots if you'd like as well to look a little bit more detailed. Okay, and now we're going to start with our big petals. So instead of gluing to the inner circle, let's pretend there's an outer circle. I'll explain that in a minute. And when you apply glue, remember to only apply at the bottom edge. Just at the bottom edge, just enough to stick down to the paper. We want our petals to stick up. So you see again, I didn't go to the circle, I stayed outside of the circle. And now we're going to grab our second set of big petals, and those we're going to put between the existing petals, sticking it to the inner circle. Easier than it sounds, just watch the video. So it should look like this. Now we're going to grab our smaller petals and we're going to fill in the gaps. These as well will be touching the inner circle or the sunflower seed pad. I didn't use yellow for my petals because yellow doesn't show up very good with markers on brown paper bag, but feel free to use what you'd like. Okay, so I'm still filling in the spots, just the empty spots. And then if you have any extra petals, just find a spot for them. It can be random. Nobody's really going to notice except you. But really, it's not that noticeable. Okay, and now we're going to do our leaves. You can crumple these as well, bend them up a little bit, give them a little bit more life. Position them how you'd like. You can put them on the branches that you created a little while ago. This leaf I'm doing a little different, pretending that it's on the front of the stem, so that's why it looks like that. And now we're going to take our bees and these springy things, and we're going to glue them together. So one end of the spring gets glued to the bee. The other end of the spring gets glued to your brown paper bag, wherever you'd like. You can put it on a leaf, you can put it on the pot. As you can see, the second one I put on the sunflower seed pad, so on the flower itself, as if the bee is pollinating it. And just hold it down. And so, this is our finished product. As you can see, I went in, I drew another bee. I added these dashes just to kind of look like they were buzzing around, you know, a little cartoon effect to it. And went in with the small petals with the orange again, drew some lines just to give it a little bit more color. And I also drew a sun in the corner. So thank you for watching. Make sure you pop in the next video to see another activity.